Welcome to the CondoVultures.com podcast with your host, Peter Zalewski, a Miami real estate broker, Wall Street consultant, and expert witness. This podcast is focused on identifying real estate buying opportunities in the South Florida condo market of Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. The CondoVultures.com podcast is not authorized by the South Florida real estate industry and will most likely annoy many of the region's talking heads. This podcast will feature straight talk and salty language that could be offensive to some. Please remember that past investment success does not determine future gains, especially in South Florida's volatile condo market. For more information, please visit CondoVultures.com.
Welcome to the Miami Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Peter Zalewski. I have a company called Condo Vultures. We have a consultancy where we rely on data to identify opportunities in the South Florida condo market. Also have a brokerage, which basically works with buyers on the buy side to try to purchase properties at a attractive rate, hopefully a discounted rate, but ultimately an attractive price. So we're buy side brokers. If you're turning into this podcast, you probably have come to hear about what's going on in a specific condo market. For this particular focus, we're going to be focusing on the area of Hollywood-Hallandale. It's going to be in southeast Broward County. If anybody's unfamiliar with the tri-county South Florida area, let me lay it out with you. Big picture, Miami-Dade County will be to the south. In the center will be Broward County, and the north will be Palm Beach County. An example of some of the communities in Miami-Dade County will be Miami Beach, Miami, Coral Gables, Aventura. Some cities in Broward County will be Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, Hollywood, as well as Hallandale. And then finally, in the northern portion of the tri-county South Florida region, you're going to have Boca Raton, you'll have West Palm Beach, you'll have Tequesta, Jupiter, places like that. So this particular focus of our condo market analysis is going to be on Hollywood and Hallandale, as mentioned, in southeast Broward County. You want to get an idea of what we're defining for our markets. It's going to be the Atlantic Ocean west to Federal Highway. If you're coming from Dade County, that's going to be known as Biscayne Boulevard. The northern boundary will be Dania Beach Boulevard, and the southern boundary will be the Miami-Dade County line, effectively right there where Gulfstream Racetrack is, if you know where that is. A couple things to mention in terms of rules of engagement about the podcast. And keep in mind, we're going to take a look at a segment dedicated to condos. Another segment will be dedicated to luxury condos. A third segment will be dedicated to the distressed condo market. And then finally, the fourth segment is going to be dedicated to the rental market. But a couple of things to keep in mind for this particular podcast. I'm going to say it once, and this way I don't have to repeat it again. All of the data we're using is coming from the multiple listing service. The multiple listing service is a database that people who join a club called the Realtors Association are able to use. Who is able to join the Realtors Association club? Basically, somebody who has a real estate license. So you get a real estate license in the state of Florida, you spend $1,000 or so a year, you join this club called the Realtor Association. Lo and behold, you get to use this database. Who uses the database? Well, it's people who are getting listings on behalf of others in which a commission is going to be paid. It's also people who have a real estate license, have joined this club and want to work with buyers and or tenants to identify properties that are on the market. Now, what is the MLS? Is it the entire marketplace? The answer is no. The MLS is those properties that are listed with the commission being offered for sale or for rent. It's also the simplest way to get an understanding of what's on the marketplace. Does it include everything? No. What are some of the properties that are not included in the multiple listing service? That would be things such as for sales by owner. It'll be those properties you see, signs you see when you get off the highway. It says, we buy ugly houses. That type of product will not be included in the multiple listing service. On the rental side, it's not going to include any of those large corporate owned properties where basically an individual or an independent organization is going to own 100, 200, 300 units. Reason many of those properties are not included in the multiple listing service from a rental perspective is that it's the commission that's paid on the gross annual rent per unit. Many of these landlords come to realize that it's much easier to hire somebody, put them in the leasing office, let them handle the leasing rather than have to pay a commission on each and every unit in a 100, 200, 300 unit building. So those properties will not be reflected in the multiple listing service. Another thing to keep in mind as you're listening to the podcast or even watching the podcast, we're recording this podcast using video. Many of you are listening to it with traditional platforms such as Apple or Google or Anchor or anyone else. you're just hearing the audio, but if you actually want to see the video, go to a platform that permits and allows for video podcasts such as Spotify. If you want to watch this on YouTube, we're taking this podcast video, we're going to upload it to YouTube. Our handle will be Condo Vultures TV, Condo Vultures TV. Another tidbit, these statistics we're going to be referring to, they're going to incorporate numbers basically from the first 9 months of 2022, So it'll be Q1 through Q3. We'll be coming up with year-end statistics for 2022. We're going to come up with that effectively later this month. Why do we do that? Well, pretty simple. All of the statistics that are put into the multiple listing service are basically entered by hand by some individual who works for a brokerage in which a transaction is getting done, a listing is being done. Therefore, individuals are going to enter the information in there. And as a result, sometimes deals close after the fact. And by the time that people entering the information enter it, there can be a lag time. So we typically give it a month to a month and a half for everything to process. And this way, when we run our statistics on a quarterly basis, we're able to get the most complete and accurate type of information that's available out there. And then finally, if you want to send us an email, if you want to ask a question, if you have a comment, send an email to inquiry@condovultures.com. That's INQUIRY at condovultures.com. So we're going to take a commercial break. The other side of the break, we're going to get into the condo market in the Hollywood-Hallandale Beach marketplace in Southeast Broward County.
It's a simple formula, and it works. Buy low, sell high. We're Condo Vultures, and when it comes to your real estate, we help you buy low. At Condo Vultures, we represent the buyer, and now's the time to buy. Log on to condovultures.com for more information. Condovultures.com. And remember, before you sell high, you have to buy low. Featured in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, 60 Minutes, and Time Magazine. Condo Vultures Realty, a licensed Florida real estate brokerage capitalizing on the condo correction since 2006.
Welcome back to the Miami Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Peter Zalewski from Condo Vultures. We're going to talk about the condo market in the Hollywood-Hallandale Beach marketplace in Southeast Broward County. As mentioned, for all the statistics, we're going to be referring to the MLS, and we will be comparing current data or current statistics to what happened in the first 3 quarters of the year to give you some sort of idea of the velocity in Hollywood-Hallandale Beach. So what do we got for sale in terms of condos? 807 condos are on the market today, 807 at the peak of the winter buying season in South Florida, which typically runs from Thanksgiving and or November through April and or Easter and Passover. Those tend to be the bookends for this particular winter buying season when people come down here because our weather is fantastic and the weather up north in the Northern Hemisphere is going to be cold. 807 condos for sale in Hollywood-Hallandale. Average asking price, $686,250 per door. $686,250 per door is what sellers are seeking. And then a price per square foot basis, $529 a foot. Now, I want to point out to you, if you listened to or watched our podcast, our previous podcast, you'll know that this is a big deal to me. And if this is the first time seeing one of our podcasts or listening to one of our podcasts, hopefully it'll give you some insight as to the way we approach things. When you talk about a condominium, you're actually talking about a commodity. When you're talking about a house, you're actually talking about a work of art. So follow me out on what my thinking is here. Generally speaking, a condominium is going to be a unit that will be built in a particular line of a building. So for instance, if it's a 30-story building and there are 9 units per floor, you will have the O1 line, the O2 line, the O3 line, the O4 line, O5 line, so on and so forth. The reality is each of those units is going to have about the same layout. Now, some individual owners might over-approve their units thinking that they're going to get money back. Chances are they don't really get any kind of premium back on it. Condos tend to trade based on pricing. What's the difference in terms of a unit on the 8th floor from a unit on the 15th floor? Basically just the height. What is the view? Not the angle, but more so the height, where you are ultimately. And that's how pricing has come about. And the way you take a look at pricing when I'm working with developers trying to help them figure out pricing models, we typically will add $5,000 to $15,000 per floor. So as you go higher, you're adding that premium. And as you're going lower, you're simply discounting that from the overall marketplace. Now, once the building is built and it's turned over to the resale market, things tend to trade based on what is the marketplace. Much like if you pull up to an intersection and there's a series of gas stations, 3 or 4 gas stations at an intersection, unless you have some sort of cultural affinity to a particular gas station, chances are you go for the cheapest price per gallon, which is how I would tell you should focus on condominiums. Some people like to look at condominiums and focus on a price per door or price per unit. It doesn't really factor in too much because if you're looking at a building or if you're looking at a marketplace and you're going price per door, you're not factoring the actual square footage, which is going to be much more important ultimately to the marketplace. So price per square foot is the most important. And the average asking price in Hollywood-Hallandale, $529 a foot, $529 a foot. And those condos that are on the market today, they've been here 131 days, 131 days. Now, in terms of pending sales, these are the units that were listed for sale and are currently under contract, 113. The average asking price for those units that went under contract, $544,535. 535 is the average asking price for those under contract. The average price per square foot, $417 a foot, days on market. Those units under contract, they've been on the market and under contract for only 77 days versus those units that are currently on the market, sitting there for sale, which average 131 days. What's the reasoning for that? Tends to do with the optimism in the asking price of the seller, not the buyer, but the seller. So it's a situation where it's a reflection of the appropriateness of the pricing. And then finally, first 9 months of the year, January through September of 2022, there were 1,682 condos that are created in Hollywood-Hallandale. 1,682, average transaction price, $488,565 a door. $488,565 per door. But as mentioned, price per square foot is much more important. So the average transaction price, Hollywood-Hallandale, first 9 months of 2022, $396 a foot, $396 a foot. And those units that they traded in 71 days. So let's compare and contrast and let's look at some of the numbers and how they might suggest to you what's going on in the marketplace. Well, those units that traded in the first 9 months of 2022, they traded in 71 days. Those units that are on the market today, they're sitting there 131 days. So nearly double the amount of time that it took in the first 9 months of the year to list a property, have it go under contract, and have it closed. So what that shows you is that these buyers are not reacting and responding the way they were in the first 9 months of the year. Now, why is that? Well, a lot of it has to do with pricing. A lot of it has to do with pricing as well as an outlook on what's going on overall in the U.S. as well as the South Florida economy. Now, a good way to sort of factor in what is the optimism of sellers and what is the interest level of buyers is to look at the spread of the premium in terms of what sellers are asking today per condo versus what the average transaction price is. Generally speaking, when we see about a 20% difference between what an optimistic seller wants and what a place typically trades for, you start to get some buyers who might be interested in taking a shot at it. But when you get a percentage or an asking price that's way over and above, many buyers will not even waste time going to check out the unit because the price has to come down way too much in order to get a deal done. So typically 20% off of an average is where you'll start to get some activity. It normally, generally speaking, a deal getting done, we tend to find it comes in somewhere between 8 and 12% spread versus what the average transaction price was. So 20% you get activity, 8 to 12% you tend to get a deal in terms of the average. So what do we got going on in Hollywood-Hallandale between what sellers are asking versus the average transaction price? Looking at about 41%. So you can see it's a very optimistic seller. And as a result, properties are sitting on the market longer. Now, in terms of price per square foot, about a 34% spread, Again, price per square foot, the average ask is $529 a foot, average transaction price, $396 a foot. So that will reflect to you why the place has been on the market for 131 days. Now, in terms of transactions per month or the sales pace or velocity, first 9 months of the year in Hollywood-Hallandale, we had about 187 sales a month, about 187 sales per month. How do I come up with that? I take the total number of sales, which was 1,682 between January and September of 2022. I divide it by 9 months of the year, and I'm going to come up with 187. Now, I'm then going to take that sales pace and divide it what's currently on the market. And what's currently on the market is 807 units. I know my sales pace is 187. So I'm going to come up with about 4.3 months of supply, Now, what do you do with this number, 4.3 months of supply? Well, you take a look at the rule of thumb. The rule of thumb is typically there should be 6 months of supply for equilibrium, with the buyer and the seller on the same page in terms of who has more negotiating power. It's a push-pull. And when we get less than 6 months of supply, typically the seller realizes that it's not enough product on the marketplace, and therefore they can ask a lot more. And buyers who want to pull the trigger on that, they know they're going to have to pay a premium because they're going to have to compete. And when we get more than 6 months, that's going to suggest that the buyer has the advantage, and the sellers are going to basically have to bend the knee and reduce their price ultimately if they want to get a deal done. So looking at the condo numbers in Hollywood-Hallandale and Southeast Broward County, and based on the first 3 quarters of 2022 and the peak of the winter buying season, We got 4.3 months of supply, 4.3 months of supply based on 6 months being equilibrium. This would put the Hollywood-Hallandale condo market in a seller's market perspective, and a seller's market right now at this moment in time. We're going to take a commercial break. Other side of the break, we're going to get to the luxury condo market in Hollywood-Hallandale in Southeast Broward County. This is Peter Zalewski of the Condo Vultures podcast. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. And I wanted to alert you that if you have a property that you're looking to sell in the Tri-County, South Florida area, I would encourage you to reach out to Jenny Cortez, a licensed real estate broker with cvrrealty.com. She's my partner. She's been in the business for north of 15 years. More importantly, she knows the market. She knows how to get a deal done. And she also realizes that it's more important to get a price that you can accept and sell the property rather than to hold firm on some price that's never going to be achieved and ultimately languish on the market. So if you're looking to do a deal that you want a skilled expert who can help you sell a property, reach out to Jenny Cortez at 305-865-5859, 305-865-5859, or visit her website, cvrrealty.com. Welcome back to the Miami Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Peter Zalewski from Condo Vultures. If you want to take a look at the charts that we are referring to and some of the statistics that I'm referring to, if you watch the video, again, go to a platform that provides for video capabilities such as Spotify, or go to something like YouTube, and our handle is Condo Vultures TV. You'll be able to see the charts that we're referring to. It'll be right there on the video footage. Now, if you want to check them out on your own, I'm going to include links to all the charts in the description of this particular podcast, or you can always feel free to go to condovulturesrealty.com, condovulturesrealty.com. As soon as you get on the, you get to the homepage, you're going to see a box or a prompt for market intelligence. Simply click on that, and there, all of the charts that I'm referring to, all the charts are available for your review, if you will. So, luxury condo market is what we're talking about right now in this particular segment. If you're in South Florida, you're going to have the term luxury thrown around quite a bit. Typically, when you hear luxury, it means way too expensive, or it means somebody's trying to hustle. They're trying to put a descriptive name on there that somehow is going to mean a higher price. So when I hear luxury, I tend to run the other way because A, I don't know what luxury means. B, I know luxury means that some seller is going to try to ask for more money than they probably deserve for a particular item, whether it is a car, it is a bottle of vodka at some nightclub, or it is a home. So what we do in terms of trying to take a look at the luxury condo market in Hollywood-Hallandale and any market in South Florida is we come up with an arbitrary definition of luxury. We say if a property is listed or is sold for $1 million or more, 7 figures, we're going to deem it luxurious. And if it is trades or it is for sale for less than 7 figures, which would be $999,999, it's all luxurious. Simply a line in the sand saying $1 million or more, it's luxury. Less than $1 million, it's not luxury. Are we accurate in our information? Yes. Are we wrong about our information? Yes. Why is that? Because there's no definition of luxury. It's sort of in the eye of the beholder. So for this particular discussion, luxury will be $1 million or more. So we're going to take a look at what's going on in the luxury market in Hollywood-Hallandale. Currently, 91 luxury condos for sale, 91 luxury condos for sale. The average asking price, just about $2.2 million a door, $2.2 million a door. On a price per square foot basis, we're looking at $960 a foot, $960 a foot. And those condos that are for sale in Hollywood-Hallandale's luxury market, they've been there 163 days and counting, 163 and counting, keeping in mind 30 days in a month. Now, in terms of pending sales, we got 12 luxury condos that are pending. The average asking price of those pending sales, just under $2.1 million a door, $2.1 million a door. On a price per square foot basis, $973 a foot, $973 a foot, and days on market. Well, they've been listed and they've been under contract for a total of, on average, of 142 days, 142 days. And the units that traded in the first 9 months of 2022, which is Q1 through Q3, that was 112 transactions of luxury condos, 112. Average transaction price, just about $1.9 million a door, $1.9 million a door, or $826 a foot, $826 a foot. And those units traded 114 days, 114. Now let's compare days on the market today, which is 163, to the average number of days that a luxury condo traded the first 9 months of the year, which was 114. You can see disconnect between what the seller is asking and what's driving the buyer. Pull the trigger and go ahead and purchase a unit. Now, what about pricing? What's that spread? Remember, I told you 20% typically is what we look for to generate some activity for a seller of a condo, whether it be luxury condo or any other type of condo. Well, what we're finding right now is there's about a 14% spread. So sellers are not being overly optimistic in terms of their asking price. 14% spread on a price per door basis. Again, the average asking price, 2.2 million a door versus the average transaction price, 1.9. But yet still, we're seeing that these condos sit on the market an average of 163 days and counting. Now, what about price per square foot? What is the spread? Again, 20% tend to get some interest and 8-12% tend to get a deal. Well, the spread right now, price per square foot for a luxury condo in Hallandale is $960 a foot versus the average transaction price, $826 a foot. That's only a 16% difference. So based on the numbers, you would think that the Hollywood-Hallandale Beach marketplace would be moving at tremendous velocity as well. Let's see what's going on in terms of supply. Because if things are priced appropriately, they should be trading. Granted, there's been interest rate increases, also some concerns about a recession in the United States, as well as inflation worldwide. So maybe that's having an impact. Maybe the strong dollar is having an impact. Well, let's take a look and let's see what the numbers suggest. Well, in the first 9 months of the year in Hollywood-Hallandale luxury condo market, you had an average of about 12 luxury condos trading per month, 12 luxury condos trading per month. How did I come up with that? Well, I took 112 that traded. I divided by 9. I come up with 12.4. Now, if I take that 12.4 sales pace or velocity for luxury condos in Hollywood-Hallandale, I divided what's currently in the market, which is 91. I'm going to come up with 7.3 months of supply. 7.3 months of supply. What does 7.3 months of supply mean? It means we are in a buyer's market for luxury condos. Why? Equilibrium is 6 months. Anything greater than 6 months means it is a buyer's market. Anything less than 6 months means it is a seller's market where there's not enough supply to go into. Now, are we in a buyer's market by a wide range? The answer is no. But we are at the peak of the winter's buying season in South Florida when everybody is ascending on this team because there's festivals going on. There's a boat show going on. There's all types of art festivals. There's concerts. There's, ultra music. Anything and everything is going on right now in South Florida. So people are on the ground. There's boots on the ground. And if these units are not moving, the question is, why are they not moving? And that's what you sort of have to ask yourself. But basically 7.3 months of supply of luxury condos in the Hollywood-Hallandale marketplace. Now, I will tell you, rule of thumb is 6 months, but some luxury brokers, they tend to make the argument that the sellers have more money than God, therefore they don't necessarily need to sell. Well, if you listen to that perspective, these luxury brokers will tell you that 12 to 18 months is really equilibrium and 6 months is not appropriate. So depending on which camp you're in, are you in the traditional camp of 6 months of supply representing equilibrium, anything greater being a buyer's market, maybe less than is the seller's market versus the luxury broker's perspective, who's trying to get the highest and best price, 12 to 18 months supply being equilibrium. So depending on which camp you're in the Hollywood-Hallandale Beach marketplace, you can see that this is a marketplace that does not have the same velocity that it did in the first 9 months of the 2022. We're going to take a commercial break. The other side of the break, we're going to get into the distressed condo market in Hollywood-Hallandale.
This is Peter Zalewski of the Condo Vultures podcast. Before I started doing these podcasts, I was in the business of being a licensed real estate broker, a contributing columnist for the Miami Herald, as well as the Miami Real Deal, but also extra witness work in consulting. So if you are looking for an expert witness, or if you're looking for consulting services, a straight talk perspective as to what's going on in a particular marketplace, a building, or what happened previously, for whatever your situation is, whether you are an attorney, whether you are a institutional fund looking to invest, or whether you're a lender who's trying to come up with some sort of strategy and approach for your lending committee going forward, I just might be able to help you. To get a hold of me, please reach out to Peter@condovultures.com. That's Peter@condovultures.com, or give me a call to the office at 305-865-5859, 305-865-5859.
Welcome back to the Miami Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Peter Zalewski. I have a company called Condo Vultures. Now, let's get into the distressed marketplace in Hollywood-Hallandale in Southeast Broward County. First place to start is to break down what is distress. Well, there's two categories of distress. There will be the short sale on one side, and there will be the REO, the real estate owned, on the other side. Now, people will mention the name foreclosure. Foreclosure is typically an REO. They'll also mention bank owned. That's typically an REO. And again, REO stands for real estate owned. So what does each one mean? Let me give you a real easy description of it. If a seller and a borrower, one and the same, if that individual or entity wants to sell a property and the price that's going to be basically generated will come up short of repaying the bank loan, forget how much the owner has into it. I'm talking about repaying the mortgage. That comes up short. that means the bank will have to release the borrower in order to get the deal done. So the bank will come up short, the borrower will come up short, and the person who's going to benefit ultimately will be that particular buyer. So that will be a short sale. Now, a real estate owned, an REO, a bank owned, a foreclosure, that is a property where someone defaulted on their mortgage. Ultimately, generally speaking, the mortgage, there could be other factors, but basically defaulted on their mortgage. A foreclosure process was put in place. That foreclosure process took anywhere from 9 to 12 months, maybe even longer, depending if it was a primary residence or not. It cost thousands of dollars. And lo and behold, at the end of the process, the bank will end up with title and the deed, and the bank will also end up with the keys, and therefore can turn around and sell the property. So if you want a property that's already gone through the foreclosure process after 9 to 12 months, thousands of dollars in fees, as well as lost mortgage payments, and ultimately you have a bank that's trying to recoup some of its money, you want to search for the REO, the real estate owned, the bank owned, or the foreclosure. If you want a property where you have some patience and you're willing to sort of roll the dice and take a chance that maybe a lender will give up a property for less than what's actually owed, that's called a short sale. So two different ways to kind of play the game. Let me give you an overview of what's going on in distress market in Hollywood-Hallandale, and then I'll break it down short sales, and I'll break it down by REO. So overall, the distress market in Hollywood-Hallandale, you only have two properties for sale. In terms of pending sales, we have one pending sale, and then total transactions for distress first 9 months of 2022, 14 deals. 14 deals have closed. So if I take those 14 deals that closed, I divide it by the 9 months that we're looking at, we're going to come up with around 1.6 distress units trading per month, 1.6 units trading per month. I then take that sales pace of 1.6 units trading per month. I divided what's currently in the market, which is 2 units. I'm going to come up with 1.3 months of supply, 1.3 months of supply. And as mentioned, 6 months is equilibrium. Anything less than 6 months is a seller's market. So we have a seller's market for distressed condos in Hollywood-Hallandale in the Southeast Broward County. Now, let's break it down into what's going on the short sale side and what's going on the REO side. Short sale side, remember, that's where a borrower is ultimately going to come up short of repaying the bank note, and the bank is going to come up short of getting paid what it's owed. Why would a bank do that? Basically, they want to avoid a foreclosure process, which again takes 9 to 12 months, maybe longer. And there's thousands of dollars in lost payments, as well as fees associated with the court process. So on the short sale side, 0 properties for sale in Hollywood-Hallandale, 0 pending sales, 0 pending sales, 0. How many transactions occurred first 9 months of the year? First 9 months of 2022, I should say. There were two. Average transaction price for one of these short sales, $345,000 per door, $345 per door. Average price per square foot, $313 a foot. So you can see, reasonable price. If you're willing to play the short sale game, you could get a reasonable price. How many days did it take for the 2 short sales to transact? 85 days. We can't really take a look at what the spread is between the average asking price and the average transaction price, simply because there's nothing available for sale. I can't tell you that 0.2 units traded per month in the first 9 months of the year, 0.2. Well, because nothing is currently available on the short sale side, there is no months of supply. There's no months of supply. So basically, it's not a market, but I'm giving you some perspective. I'm giving you some consistency. Now let's look at the real estate owned side, the REO side, the bank owned side, or the foreclosure side. 2 units are currently on the market. The average asking price, $632,250 per door, $632,250 per door. Average price per square foot, $565 a foot. How many days on the market on average? 207 days in counting. So these bank owned condos have been sitting there for 207 days thus far. Now, how many sales are pending of REOs? One. What was that price? $155,000 was the asking price when the place went under contract. And what is that price per square foot? $141 a foot. And it's been 29 days only 29 days from that pending sale. And then finally, how many units traded in the first 9 months of 2022 that are REOs? 12. Average transaction price, $383,250 a door, $383,250. Price per square foot, $297 a foot. Pretty interesting, $297 a foot. And then finally, days, how many days did it take? 35 days. So what do we got going on in terms of the difference between the number of days in which it trades and ultimately the number of days for those properties that are available? Those 2 that are on the market today, they've been there 207 days and they're asking $565 a foot. Now compare that to the units that traded in the first 9 months of the year. They traded in 35 days and they traded for $297 a foot. So you can see price plays a factor in what ultimately trades. Now, what is the spread price per door for some of these REOs? About 65% difference, 65% difference. And what's the spread in terms of price per square foot? About 90% difference, 90% difference. And I would argue to you that is why you see the properties in the market much longer today than they were in the first 9 months of the year, simply because of the pricing. Now, how many REOs traded per month in the first 9 months of 2022? 1.3 units, 1.3 units. That was based on 12 transactions that occurred over a 9-month period. That gives you an average of 1.3 average transactions per month. If I divide that what's currently in the market, which is 2, I'm going to come up with 1.5 months of REO supply, 1.5 months of REO supply. So that's an overview of the stressed condo market in Hollywood-Hallandale. You can see that this is a seller's market, but that should not surprise anyone. A bank that has to take back title to a property ultimately has lost money, and therefore they're going to want to recoup some of their losses. How do they do that? By restricting and limiting number of units that they ultimately put on the market. So banks already taken the hit. Now they want to try to recoup whatever they can. And ultimately, many of these banks will turn around and sue the borrower for whatever the difference is based on what they're not able to achieve on that particular REO side in terms of selling the properties. We'll take a commercial break. Other side of the break, we're going to get into the rental market in the Hollywood-Hallandale area of Southeast Broward County.
Don't buy a South Florida condo, discounted or distressed, before taking a Condo Vultures correction tour. CondoVultures.com offers weekly bus and walking tours that focus on educating buyers on the how-tos of identifying discounted condos, analyzing the opportunities, and purchasing units. Every tour attendee receives a list of all condo projects in a particular market, a market assessment handout, and unmatched expert analysis. For more information on the condo correction tours, please visit condovultures.eventbrite.com.
Welcome back to the Miami Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Peter Zalewski. I have a company called Condo Vultures. If you want to check out any of the charts that I'm referring to, simply go to condovulturesrealty.com, condovulturesrealty.com. Any and all podcasts, statistics that we refer to, they're all going to be posted on the Condo Vulture Realty website. And there you'll find them simply on the homepage under the market intelligence prompt. This particular segment, we're going to be talking about the rental market. So the first segment, we talked about the condo market, then we talked about luxury condos, then we talked about distressed condos. Now we're going to talk about the rental market. Some of you might be buying your condo for primary use, or some of you might be buying it for a second home or a vacation home, not really necessarily thinking about renting it. However, things change. Economy changes, jobs change, family changes, health changes, all these different things. So it's my take that it's always important to have an idea of what the rental market is like, just in case an owner of a condo wants to turn around and try to rent it. So what we're going to do for this particular segment is we're going to get into the rental market. Now, we've talked about averages in all the previous segments that we were looking at average. For rentals, we're going to look at median. And why are we going to look at median? Simply because there's so much different type of rental product that is on the market. Some places are rented by the night, some are rented by the week, some are rented by the month, some are rented by the year. So rather than spend a lot of time trying to crunch data, and I'll probably still come up with data that is still less than authoritative, what we do is we simply use the median. Median is the number right in the middle. It will give you a sense of what's going on in the marketplace. Now, why is that? Why are we going after a sense rather than a definitive answer? Well, basically because rental data is sketchy. Sometimes you'll hear reports about what's going on in a rental market. I will tell you, for the most part, none of it's going to be that reliable. And why is that? Because people who use, organizations that use the MLS for rental data, they're relying only on those properties in which a commission is going to be paid, which is what the requirement is to get the MLS. It's not going to incorporate or include some of these large real estate investment trusts, some of these large entities that own 300, 400 units in a complex and have multiple buildings. Why isn't that information not included? Simple. They don't want to pay commissions. Generally speaking, a South Florida commission on a rental is going to be 10% of the gross annual rent. So 10% of the gross annual rent will be the commission. If you have 300 units, that's a hell of a lot of money to be paying every year to a realtor to go ahead and try to lease out your place. So what some of these large entities do, again, real estate investment trusts, as well as family offices, everything else, what they'll do is they'll hire 1 or 2 people, they'll put them in a leasing office, they'll pay them 50, 60, 30, 40 grand, and therefore put these people in charge and save all of that money on commission. And as a result, you're not going to see their results in the multiple listing service data that I'm going to be referring to, and many of the reports that are published refer to. So keep that in mind about the rental market, but it will give you some sort of perspective of what's going on. How do I identify one of these corporate rentals? Pretty simple. Look for a building where there's a big sign in front saying for rent and list telephone number. Another way to do it is look for a building where somebody's in front flipping a sign, trying to get you to pull over while you're driving by, come in, get some information, and sign a lease. That typically is a good suggestion that this is a corporate-owned property. It's not being done by a realtor who maybe has 4 listings in a 300-unit building. So that's the way to keep track of it. Now, let's get into the rental data, again, focusing on median. Currently, 806 properties are for rent in Hollywood-Hallandale, Southeast Broward County. What properties are we looking at? Well, we're looking at basically everything except a single family, everything except a single family house. So what would that incorporate or include? Apartments, condos, efficiencies, multifamily, and townhouses. So anything but a single family. 806 currently on the market. Median asking price, $3,800 a month, $3,800 per month. What is that price per square foot? $3.91 a square foot per month, $3.91 a square foot per month. And those properties that are available for rent in Hollywood-Hallandale at the peak of the winter buying season, 86 days they've been sitting there, 86 days. Now, pendings, 95 rentals are currently pending in Hollywood-Hallandale, 95. The median price per month that these properties, when they went on their contract and became pending, when did the deal occurred or when the deal began? $2,400 a month, $2,400 a month. And what is that price per square foot? Coming in at $2.29 a square foot per month, $2.29 a square foot per month. And how many days did it take or had those properties been listed as well as on the contract? Grand total of 32 days, 32 days. And the places that were leased in the first 9 months of 2022, 1,113 places, 1,113. The median transaction price for these leases, $2,500 a month, $2,500 a month per unit. How much is it per square foot monthly? $2.53 a square foot per month, $2.53 per square foot per month. And they leased in 27 days. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the days. 27 days is how long it took a place to rent on a median basis in Hollywood-Hallandale the first 9 months of the year. Places that are available for rent today, they've been sitting there 86 days and counting, 86 days and counting. Once they go pending, then you have to add a couple more days ultimately for the deal to be signed. So you can see there's a disconnect between what landlords are asking and what tenants are willing or able to pay. Now, what is the spread in terms of what the landlords are asking versus what places typically rent for? Well, what we're seeing on a price per door basis, about a 52% spread, 52% spread. That means the $3,800 median basis that landlords want is 52% higher than it should be, which ultimately is $2,500 a month of what these places rent for the first 9 months of the year. What is the price per square foot? About a 55% spread, 55% spread. The median ask was $391 a foot, and the median transaction price, $253 a foot, $253 a foot. So you can see landlords want a lot, and tenants or renters don't necessarily want to pay that. Now, how many places rented per month in the first 9 months of the year in Hollywood-Hallandale? Roughly about 124 per month. How did I get that? I looked at the 1113 that were ultimately leased in the first 9 months of the year. I divided it by 9, and I came up with the 124 unit leasing pace, if you will. If I take that leasing pace at 124 a month, I divided what's currently in the market, which is 806 leases. I'm going to come up with 6.5 months of supply, 6.5 months of supply. Equilibrium will be 6 months. Anything less than 6 months is a landlord's market. Well, what we got here is we got 6.5 months, which means it is a renter's market or a tenant's market. Not by a lot, but it's leaning towards giving the renter the advantage simply because you're starting to see a growing supply of inventory that's available for rent. As the supply increases, prices typically come down. Now, we're at the peak of the winter leasing season or winter buying season, so you would think it would still be strong, but looking at the numbers here, it suggests that there's some real softness that's starting to occur in the Hollywood-Hallandale Beach rental market in Southeast Broward County. So, thanks for tuning into our podcast. I want to remind you, if you have any questions or comments for us, send an email to inquiry@condovultures.com, inquiry@condovultures.com. Also, too, if you want to see any of our charts, go to condovulturesrealty.com, condovulturesrealty.com, look for market intelligence. The charts will be there, or you can simply go to the description in the in this particular podcast, wherever you're listening to. And if you do want to see the video of our particular podcast, go to a platform that permits it, such as Spotify, or you can go to YouTube, and our handle is Condo Vultures TV, Condo Vultures TV. So once again, thanks for tuning in. I'm Peter Zalewski of Condo Vultures. We look forward to catching up with you very soon. Take care of yourself. Ciao, ciao.